Hello, Suzanne. So nice to hear from you. And I'm honored to be a finalist. So I'm just going to answer your questions one at a time. What did I do before I was a doula? I was a middle school social studies teacher, an athletic director, a mother of two boys. Yeah, I mean, I really all my work was with kids and education. And then I took the Doula Giver course in 2015, which I just love to tell the story that it was just Suzanne and me and Allison Tyler, in New York, in your apartment. And I was drawn to the Doula Giver training because it was so practical that you had this background as an oncology nurse. You really talked about symptom management and having an awareness of the room and what to look for and how to help people really have the best quality of life based on how their body was, you're kind of no longer able to do the things, like they had no energy or they had no oxygen, or how do you help people manage those kind of symptoms. I think that the training has changed an incredible amount since 2015, and I should probably take it again because it's expanded. You have so many offshoots, and one day I will take it again. So what have I done with my doula training since I got it? I was a co-founder of the Minnesota Death Collaborative, and I'm really proud of that work and really set the stage for doula work in Minnesota, for certainly the metro, to be collaborative. We work as a team, we share clients, we share resources, we share information. It's been really helpful for me as a young doula to get started, knowing I have all these different people that I can rely on to answer questions that I don't know, I haven't had experience with yet. Some of the projects I'm most proud of are, we started a hotline, a COVID hotline, to meet the needs, the kind of emergent needs of people who are facing end of life. And we trained 20 to 30 doulas to be hotline operators. I'm really proud of the training we put together. We had help from folks in hospice and grief and bereavement, and as well as hotline crisis line operators. We also came up with kits for first line workers in hospitals to have them acknowledge the grief that came with their job, and gave them some rituals that they could do before and after work to sort of sustain themselves to do that hard work. I think we gave out over 500 kits. It was really well received. I did a TED Talk in 2018 about what I have learned, how I've learned to live life differently because of my experiences with death, and that really launched me into being a death educator. And I've talked at many state, local, and conferences on aging and hospice conferences just about end-of-life doula work and how we work alongside hospice. In 2021, January, I co-founded the Full Circle Care Program at Providence Place, which is a skilled nursing facility. I was the first doula that they hired, and they have now, that program has gone out to 2 other facilities, and there are currently 5 doulas who are employed. And I have a group of 14 volunteer doulas who work in the skilled nursing facility with us. And I think it's a really great model. I feel like doula work really needs apprenticeship. And I am happy to be able to address that. So the doulas work in the building, and then they always have 2 full-time doulas who are there to troubleshoot, to support. We do a monthly doula education meeting where we, have a grief ritual and say goodbye to all the people that have passed in the last month. We do an educational piece, we do a case study piece, and we support each other. Like sharing a story of a resident or a client. I had one resident. So I'm in a skilled nursing facility that is really it's 99% indigent people, and they have had lives of trauma that then fed into homelessness and drug addiction and chronic mental health problems. And so oftentimes they're fractured from their families. So one of the stories that I replay in my work frequently is having a resident who has had this life of trauma and has all these relationships that are broken, and then heads into end of life, frequently unsupported by family or friends. So I had one resident, she was just big, huge blue eyes. She loved country music. She really was terrified of death. Didn't really want to talk about it. And we would just sit outside and listen to Loretta Lynn, and she'd tell me, you know, what birds were singing. And that was really most of our relationship, was just listening to country music. And she was very, very shy. And maybe she'd ask me one question the whole time we were sitting outside, like, do you have children? And then we'd talk about parenting. And I started reading with her The Incredible Afterlife of Billy Fingers, which is a book I read often with my folks who are not super rock solid on what happens at end. You know, if they really believe in heaven, then I don't read it with them. But it's just a story of a guy who dies, and then he comes back and tells his sister what it's like to die and what it happens in the afterlife. And I was reading to her, and I knew that her husband, who they had gotten divorced like very early on, and maybe after 5 years of marriage, they had one daughter, but they stayed in touch their whole lives. And he had died a year ago. So I'm reading from this book, and I look up, and she's got these huge saucer eyes. And I said, what is it? And she said, that's exactly what it's like. That is what they are saying in the book is exactly how it is when I have dreams about my husband. I feel like he's there. I can feel the energy from wherever he is. I mean, she wasn't as articulate as that, but that's what she was saying. And so she just loved the book. So we read the whole book and really worked through what I felt was a lot of her death anxiety. And I knew she had this daughter who lived in Colorado who really was uninvolved in her life. And the resident would tell me different stories, like, oh, we talk every Sunday, or I haven't heard from her in like 6 months, or I really didn't have a clear idea of what the relationship was. So I called the daughter and introduced myself, and the daughter like sequestered herself in another room, and she said, listen, you know, I've had so many calls from hospice, and now you, and I really never had a relationship with my mom. I was taken away from her when I was 12 and really never knew her again. And my father just died last year, and it tore my heart out, and I'm really not looking forward to going through this again. And so I really just want updates, but I don't want to talk to her, and like I want to stay kind of apart from it. So I was like, okay, fine. And by that time, my resident couldn't really talk anyway, so I would sit vigil with her, and then I would text the daughter, you know, she's comfortable, or she's, you know, agitated, but we're dealing with meds, or I'm playing Loretta Lynn, or it was Christmas time, so I was playing country Christmas music. And then the daughter slowly would start texting back, like, oh, she loves, you know, this song, or will you pray the Hail Mary with her? Because I remember that she used to pray with me when I was a little girl. So then I shared that story with the resident, and the resident got a big, huge smile. And then I shared that with the daughter. And then the daughter started sharing more memories that she had had of a little girl with her mother. And then the daughter said, I want to read the book you're reading. So then she read the book. So then the three of us would talk about it. And I would basically translate what the mother, how she was reacting to the daughter. And then they just got closer and closer. And before she died, I said, do you want to say goodbye? You can just record it, and I will play, you know, hold it up to her ear, and she won't be able to talk back because she can't talk anymore, but she could hear it. And then the daughter called and basically said, I knew you loved me my whole life, and I forgive you that, you know, you weren't the mother that I needed or the mother that I wanted, but I understand why, because you had a very hard life, and I'm sorry that you had a very hard life. And just beautiful, beautiful goodbye back and forth. And then her mother died, and I texted her, it was like 10 o'clock at night, but 8 o'clock Colorado time. And she said, you know what? I knew that she died because I have a Christmas light from my childhood, and a green light and a red light. And it's only been the green light. And then at 8 o'clock, the red light came on, and I just knew my parents are together again, and da da da. And then like 2 weeks later, the daughter wrote to me and said I was just at my, had my therapy session, and I was able to heal like my my inner child who has so much pain around their childhood. And it was her death experience and being able to be part of it that allowed me to heal. And I think, like, it just doesn't take rocket science. It's just having someone like a doula to be in between and slowly going at the pace that people can manage to get closer and closer, and creating safety so people feel like they can be vulnerable. That allows for these kind of monumental healing events. So anyway, that's one of my stories. How has this changed my life being a doula giver? It's changed it in every way I can imagine. Currently, I'm on the board for End in Mind, which is a local Minnesota public radio talk show. No, she's like the morning news person, has a nonprofit to support end-of-life conversations. And so I'm on that board, and we're coming up with a befriending death series. So hopefully we'll be able to reach a wider audience. I mean, my whole life is about these conversations, and much like the rest of you, right? Once you get it in your blood, you're changed forever. And I'm super grateful for it. And I'm grateful for Suzanne.